The joy of Pepsi.
3, 2, 1, bro.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mike Murphy.
I'm Nick Murphy.
We are the Brothers Murph, and what I want to do
What's that?
is a little bit of by the numbers, man.
Ooh.
That's right. So we're kind of 2 years into this now.
This is fun.
We're deep in now.
Yeah, we're deep in.
We've gotten better.
We're nip deep.
We've watched older stuff, and I was like, ooh.
We're like, have we improved that much? We look back, we're like, ooh,
bit. Just a hair.
Yeah, just a sconce.
Just a hair. Now, I would say maybe, perhaps our tastes have improved as well.
I don't necessarily think our tastes necessarily have improved.
We have just
as
eaten
they
much
have
more.
Yes, our palate has widened.
We've
Not
become
necessarily
quite
gotten
gluttonous.
better. Exactly.
Indeed. So what we're doing is we did our top 100 games this year.
Yes.
Over on the Dice Tower. Now it's been reposted here on the Brothers
Just
Murph.
ended yesterday.
And we did our top 25 games the year before just on our channel. So one thing I like to do is I like to see trends and stuff over the years. Like,
yeah.
We just kind of got to thinking, like, how similar were our lists? How much did they change? How much did my list change from last year to this year and vice versa? Did we have anything where you really liked a game and for me it was really low on the list or not on the list? So we just kind of wanted to do some, like, just fun by the numbers stuff, sort of recapping 2017 versus 2018 in our
and
top
then just
games.
our top 100 as a whole. I wrote down some kind of interesting stuff. So we'll do the top 100 first, just kind of interesting differences, because if you watched it or if you know us in general, we have very similar taste in games. So we were curious of, like, what the lists look like out once we're past them. We look back at them, like, try to figure out and stuff like that. So I have some numbers and stuff here, and then we'll go through, like, our top 25 last year and then this year kind of thing.
It's a little different now.
So we had 86 crossovers.
It's an 86% crossover rate.
Which we knew was going to happen. We knew there was going to be a lot of crossover. Luckily, our numbers were not exact. It wasn't like we had the same 90, the same 89, the same 88.
But that's where it got fun, is just seeing how, like, we had a lot of the same games, but we're not always anywhere near each other. And I'm honestly surprised we weren't in the 90s with the crossover. So I'm kind of proud.
I'm proud of
different tastes.
We're different humans.
Controversy.
It's crazy. So I will just say, so that means there's 14 games that are on your list that aren't on mine, and vice versa. So I'm going to go through the 14 games real quick. One thing I will say is somehow when we were doing our lists, 5 Tribes did not end up on the list.
We used
Pub
Meeple,
yeah.
and it pulls from your BGG, which 5 Tribes is shown as a part of our list, and it didn't put in there, and we didn't realize the way after, like, no someone said no 5 Tribes, we were like, oh my gosh.
We were like,
it would have been on our
we were looking at our list like, where is 5 Tribes? And it would have been probably top 50 for me. I think even higher for you.
Yeah, top 50 for sure.
Probably. So just that one's missing.
So whatever my 100 is, negate it. It's not even
indeed. So on your list, I did not have. You had Grim Forest, Rising 5,
okay,
Keyflower, Above and Below, Around the World in 80 Days, Mr. Jack, Hanabi, Palm Island, Fireball Island, Clask, Ganshon Cleva, Caverna, Heaven and Ale, and Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
I stand by most of those.
Yeah.
I stand by most of those.
And, like, Fireball Island would have ended up on my list. We'd only played it, like, once. It hadn't released yet, and I just didn't really think of it. And Clask, I legitimately just didn't think of. Like, didn't cross my mind. They're like, oh, yeah, Clask. It didn't even cross mine. Yeah. So on my list, that was not on yours, was Flatline, the Dresden Files cooperative card game.
I just need to play it more.
Yeah. Metro X, Q, Pagoder, Rhino Hero Super Battle, which I was surprised looking back that you didn't have Rhino Hero on there. I figured it'd be high up on your list in terms of low, I suppose.
It's very
up in the
fun,
90s.
yeah.
Rococo, which I think will probably be on your list next year.
Yeah.
Pie Town, Vegas Showdown, hey, that's my fish. Manhattan Project Energy Empire, Forbidden Desert, The Bloody Inn, and then Cribbage. But in Cribbage, you kind of hadn't thought of.
I hadn't thought of. It's kind of your version of Cloud. It should be on there.
Yeah.
So, question. So, I'm thinking back, a couple of those things, and I'm like, oh, man, maybe it should be on my... So, like, one I can think of is, like, Vegas Showdown. For the longest time, I had not played, and you had, and I finally got to play it.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe that would make the list. Although, now I'm a little bit, like, hesitant to say anything like, man, if I play more, I really think it's going to go up. And I'm like... Because we said that a lot in 2017.
Yeah, last year.
And, like...
We said, like, I think it's going to be higher next year, and it wasn't.
It's like, I think eventually maybe we can start to make those statements. But I know there's a few that, like, Metro X and stuff, I'm like, oh, yeah, there's, like, a lot of good games.
Hey,
that
man.
maybe should be on my list.
Yeah, so that's the quick. Those are the games that are on his list that weren't on mine, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So now here, so we're gonna go through now is some big differences. So now all the rest of these games are on both of our lists, but I'm curious of like where they ended up. So some big differences is Raiders of the North Sea. You had it 50, but I had it 87.
Because you're a hater, dude.
So that's pretty good. Champions of Midgard, I had it 82. You had it 29.
Whoa.
Now that is not the biggest difference.
Really? That's a pretty
It
big
isn't.
difference, dude. Why do you hate Champions Midgard so much?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
After Gray
Viral.
Fox gave us all that stuff? You're messing up.
Viral, I had it 31.
Yeah.
You had it 80. That's pretty close. Lanterns, I had it 26. You had it 97.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big difference.
You're so that game is endeared itself to you big time.
And then these two I think are interesting because the gap isn't as big, but the relevance of where they are in the list, in my opinion, makes them more significant. So, Terraforming Mars, I had 24. You had 5 at 5.
I'm so
that's
surprised
pretty
yours
big.
is so low.
don't-
It's not a low 20.
This
out of,
was pre-Prelude. I think Prelude, even though it's such a small expansion, does make that big a difference with that game. And then Clank was 33 for me and 6 for you. So that's a pretty big difference considering those are both in your top 10.
Clank later in my top 10 for 2 years in a row now.
Now that you might have seen it, but you know what the biggest difference is?
I'm trying to think of what it.
I think this is the biggest difference at least.
I can't think of what it might be. What you got?
71. Sorry, hold on.
Also, hold for math.
Hold on. Let me do math real quick. I just realized I actually might have given away the. Oh no, I was wrong. The biggest gap. Yeah, the biggest gap is actually Lanterns, 26.97.
That's
the
pretty
other
good.
biggest gap is the Prodigals Club, which you had at 82,
yeah.
but I had at 13. So I think
is
that was more
significant.
significant.
It's
'cause
almost your top 10, yeah.
And honestly, I think it could break my top 10, the Prodigals Club. I like it that much. But nonetheless, those are some big gaps, which I find...
They're intense, man.
I think that's the more interesting part of our list. It's like not how much crossover. It was like they're kind of all over this because there was a lot more, but they were like 20 or 30 apart, so I didn't really put them on here. But
yeah, it wasn't until we got right down to it that they started getting really similar in terms of like placement. But we only, through all of that, only had one true crossover, which as you know, if you watched like our 10-1, I was convinced I had you pegged. I was like, I know exactly how your list is going to play out. And it was not that way.
We were both wrong.
You betrayed yourself. We had one true crossover, was Rogers of the Ganges.
Which is at 93.
And that is one that I will say, I swear, dude, this place is incredibly haunted. I think that one will go up for both of us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's just
now we own it. That makes
yeah.
me...
If you all of a sudden see us stop posting videos, I'm going to give it about 3 days, and then you just get The Exorcist right over here, because we're on the ceiling just going...
What is going on?
Stop it. Brown house, am I right? But that was surprising to me, man. That was surprising
Indeed.
that we only had one... And it was in the 90s of all places.
I know,
like,
right?
The least likely...
That's such a weird place. Yeah, and that was the only true crossover. We had Legendary was pretty close. I had at 23, you had at 21.
Yeah.
That was pretty close. And the funniest one to me is at 35, I had King Domino and you had Queen Domino.
Yeah.
Which is funny because then the opposite of those is you had King Domino at 62 and I had Queen Domino at 66.
Yeah.
So they were basically complete opposites almost exactly.
Yeah.
Because they cross over on 35 and then the other two were only 4 apart in the 60s.
Right.
Which is pretty interesting. And then our top 10, we had 7 crossovers. Which is interesting.
It's bound to happen.
So that's just some interesting, like, little number stuff from our top 100 this year of, like, yeah, we had a lot of crossover, but there's some pretty big gaps, and we like the same stuff for the most part, which is, we knew that our top 100 was going to be like that.
And little things that I think is interesting is how, like, our opinions have held in some ways, because last year, King Domino and Queen Domino were both on both of our lists. we had talked about them, or rather, we just talked about them. How you liked King Domino better than Queen Domino,
Yeah.
and you at the time thought it was going to switch, but it hasn't.
I'm
It's
pretty
only
sure I
grown
literally
now.
said it was going to switch.
Yeah. It's a lot more. It's a lot more of a thinker. I didn't think it'd be quite that high, but I love it. It'll probably go up for me too.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, but it did. It held, and then mine held the other way, where I rated Queen Domino higher than King Domino, and that has held true as well. Now,
Yeah.
the gaps between the two have grown, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, I guess we still like the thing we like, man.
Yeah.
You know.
So on our channel last year, we did a top 10 and then a top 11 through 25. So basically, did a top 25 on our own channel.
Yeah.
So now, like, we have our top 25 from then and then our top 25 now.
Yeah.
In front of us here.
I'm curious, just right off the bat, how many from your top 25 last year are still in your 25 today?
12.
I've got 10.
Okay, that's
just
pretty
10.
good. I'm almost halfway.
That's pretty
Are
good.
still in there, considering again how many more games we played last year.
And that's something to like consider, because I was thinking like, why is it so different and stuff? And it's simply like almost every single game that I can look at that is new to my top 25 is new to me.
Yes,
We just played so many more games, new and old,
we
in the
probably
last
played
year.
at least. Gosh, how many? Like
I don't even know.
Probably at least 75 new games last year, maybe 80,
It-
maybe more. I mean,
yeah,
it's
it
probably
could
close
well
to
push
100 last
yeah.
year of
And that's-
new games.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a lot. So it's I think, and that's how it's going to be. It's like there might be for the many years to come, it might be volatile this time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just like have played new stuff, and like
Indeed.
because in every instance but one, things that were on my top 25 last year and are still on here, they've all gone down, with the exception of one that's gone up, and one has stayed the same.
oh, Lord.
Everything else has declined.
Mine.
But that's not because they've gotten worse. It's just because the new stuff has come into my life that has.
There
usurped it.
are. Oh gosh, let me see. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 for me that have gone up.
3 have gone
Yeah.
up.
Well, 4 technically. 4 have gone up. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So 4 of mine have actually gone up,
All right, my only one that's gone
and
up,
some somewhat drastically. Yeah.
mine is it's kind of a cheat, is Ticket to Ride. So last year when we talked Ticket to Ride, I had said like officially, they were kind of both just generally Ticket to Ride, but officially it was kind of Ticket to Ride Europe, because that was the one we owned. But I even
Yeah.
said last year that like, oh, but really, I really like this Ticket to Ride Nordic countries. I hope we get it someday. Now we've gotten it.
Yeah.
It absolutely is the only one that I like really, really want to play all the time. And so 11 this year was Ticket to Ride Nordic countries
Yeah.
specifically. Last year at 14 was Ticket to Ride General. So that's the only one that's
See,
gone
that's
up, and it's
interesting.
because of Nordic countries, which I knew was going to be the key.
Yeah, and Ticket to Ride for me was 14 last year, and Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries was 18 for me this year. So it didn't go up, but normal Ticket to Ride is 60 now.
Yeah.
So because that's gone, because Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries has more or less replaced normal Ticket to Ride for me, unless we're playing with like 5 people, you know.
totally.
So it's
Unless
like
you need to, I'm like, nah.
so yeah. So
interesting.
it's for ones that have gone for me is Suburbia went from 18 to 16, so not like a huge difference, but Suburbia went up for me. Seventh Continent went up from 15 to 9. So Seventh Continent broke into my top 10.
Yeah, because I was surprised last year how low it was. Because for
Yeah.
me, it was
8 last year.
It was it was 8 last year, and it's now down to 18, but
Yeah.
still in the top 25.
Indeed. So the networks, this is the biggest change, was 23 for me last year, and now it's 4.
Dang.
That's the biggest in here. That's
That's
the biggest
huge.
gap. Like that's a huge crop. Big, and then the biggest one, I suppose, is viticulture went from 2 to 1.
right.
So like, I mean, that's,
That's
a
huge,
little
though,
smooth,
to
but
be
from
able
2
to
to
go-
1 is
yeah.
a big deal, you know. But the biggest one for me is the networks going from 23 all the way to 4 is a big
That's a
difference.
significant jump.
Because it's like that's top 5.
Yeah, my biggest one jumped 3 spaces. My biggest, I'm thinking like drop that's still in the top 25 is probably like Legendary. Legendary was 4, now it's 21. Clank is down from number 1 last year to number 6 this year, so that's still in the top 10. Pandemic was 3, now it's 8, still in the top 10.
Yeah.
Shakespeare was 5, now it's 10, still in the top 10. And Shakespeare maybe could go up or down. You know, these ones down here are,
My
are
biggest
interesting.
drop that's still in the 25 is Legendary as well. Went from 6 to 24.
Do you have like one off the top of your head that you can think of like the biggest drop period? So of my 25, 24 of them are still in my top 100. So a lot of them are still around. They're just not necessarily as high as they were. You know what I mean?
I think, with the exception of 5 Tribes, because 5 Tribes is 25. That one doesn't count because it would my top 100. All of them are still in my top 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. The only one for me dropped off, and this is still one of my favorite gaming experiences of all time, was Captain Sonar.
Oh, yeah.
So this time last year, we had played Captain Sonar that year. It's still the only time we played it.
Yeah.
We played it at a convention. It was
Show how
super fun.
good that experience was.
Oh yeah, no, and it's
know,
still
like-
if you're talking game experiences,
Yeah.
still top 10. It was so fun. We played the full contingent of 8 players. We played 2 games back to back. They were back and forth. We won one, we lost one. We played different roles. It was incredibly fun. That was 22 last year, and it's not ranked because we didn't go beyond the 100 with the rankings. So that's the only one that's not in the top 100, but still an incredible experience.
Yeah, the biggest drop for me is actually Ticket to Ride. That's because it got supplanted. The biggest like drop is Queen Domino, which went from 24 to 66.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: with the exception of those 2, all of these are still in my. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 3. Libertalia is at 59 now, and Werewords. So all but 4 of these are still in my top 50.
Not as much for me. I've got some, but like Stone Age was 23, now it's 52, so that's close. And I can see that kind of creeping back up, to be honest.
I agree, yeah.
Codenames Duet was 25, it's 34, so that stayed solid. Once it took big drops, where Hero Realms was 24 last year, 68 this year. Still in the 100, but like quite a bit lower. Probably the most significant. Small World was 10 last year, it's 57 this year.
Wow.
That's pretty big. So that's a
big
top
drop.
10 that went right away.
That
still
is a
like it.
big
We just don't
drop.
play it that often.
No, yeah.
The other one too. This is one worth noting. Castles of Mad King Ludwig, 18 in 2017, 74 now, and I honestly don't imagine it sticking around the top 100.
It's not on my. It wasn't on my list this year.
Yeah,
it went completely off the list.
I don't think it's gonna make the list, and I don't think we're gonna own it by this time next year. If I'm honest,
It'll be something that gets cold most likely. Especially
just because we're getting to that point, we have to start calling. We have Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. We have the app of the Castle of Mad King.
Which I
so
like.
it's like we're good on like we don't.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need a ton more. One thing you talked about was Suburbia, which has always been like rated more low for me.
Yeah.
But now that they have this new one coming out, and we're gonna get it, I could see it starting to creep back into these in the higher. Might make the 25 or something because it's such a good game. And I'm not held back by the art or anything, but like there's a couple things that are gonna make it a little easier to set up, and I think it's gonna reinvigorate the game. And I really can expect, some growth there because I just like city building, man.
It's the best. Yeah. So like, so is there anything that surprised you about the difference? My biggest surprise was how much was still on the top 25, and the fact that all but 4 are still in my top 50 really surprised me. I was actually surprised, despite the fact it doesn't really look like it on paper. I was actually surprised at how consistent the 2 lists were, especially considering how many new games we played last year.
Yeah. It's tricky, man. I'm curious, or I'm just surprised. I'm just taking a look right now and trying to see if Quadropolis was in 2017's top 25.
I thought it was.
It is. Okay, and it just dropped it 15 to 20, so that was pretty close. Yeah, I guess I'm just... It just went to show how many new games we played this year. I mean, that's really the main thing I took away from it. There's so many games here that are new, and now I'm starting to wonder, I feel like 2018's top 25 is a lot more solid than 2017 to 2018's.
I wouldn't be surprised if next year, 20 of my top 25, or at least 18 or so, are still there.
So are there any things, if you're looking at 2018, you're 25, my number 25 is Fireball Island, all the way down to Feast for Odin for 1. Is there anything, because Raptor snuck in last year, it was number 13. I was so excited by it. Now it's 61, still a great game.
Yeah.
But I was so enamored with just the idea of it, and it's different, just 2-player specific games. We hadn't played that many of them at that time. Is there anything that you're looking at 2018, you're like, oh man, this might be I'm just swept up in it right now? Is there anything you're we'll see if you stick around, buddy? I have Space at number 12. Is that going to stay in even the top 20?
Not 20.
I don't know, but I really like Space.
I agree. Space is my 22. That could go out of the top 25. I think Legendary is going to keep dropping. I don't think it's going to drop out of my 100. We just don't play it nearly as much as we used to. And it's because we were so hot on it in 2017, where we literally played it over 100 times in a year.
Yeah.
And it keeps kind of dropping, and not necessarily because it's a bad game. It just does. I think Dungeon Pets is going to continue to drop.
Me too. That was 7 to 43.
Yeah,
in
see,
a
for
year.
me, it was
It's just surprising because it's a worker placement.
it was
game,
4 to 11. So
incredible
for me,
theme.
yes.
But I don't imagine that'll ever go away.
No, see, for me, I think it'll be next year. Will probably be near the top of my 25, and I think it's going to settle in the top 50. But I think just because we don't play it nearly as much, because we just have so many games, and it was like one of our first worker placement games. So like, oh, and now we have. That's one thing you can see is like last year we talked about in our top 10 last year. We're like, yeah, turns out we really like worker placement. Yeah, that hasn't changed.
No, that
that
hasn't changed at all.
Other than that, I don't really know any other thing that might be like, I can see it going off.
That's
the
like
top
making
25.
bold predictions for the future so that we can use this footage later to be like,
Yeah, I
no,
know,
that
right?
wasn't right. Or we were dead on. I don't know.
I don't know.
Make your bets, people. What do you think? I'm wondering if Clank's going to stick around the top 10. Is 1 to 6 still really high? I don't know if there's another year of new stuff. I don't know, man. We're a cult of the new, man. We're a cult of the new. We got Quest for El Dorado snuck in at number 19. there.
Yeah, that was on my.
I think that's going to stay high because it's fun, but I imagine it in like the 30s.
Yeah.
20s or 30s.
Yeah,
Still good.
It's interesting. It's interesting the lists. It's yeah, they're just. I was very surprised. Especially the top 25 was more surprising than I thought it was going to be. I was like, wow, that's actually kind of interesting and pretty consistent and pretty cool. So
It's
yeah,
fun. If you there at home rank your games and stuff, do you have wild changes from year after year? If you've done it for multiple years, do you see it start to like settle out? Because I understand like if you get like 10 years in, things are gonna. There's just so much more stuff that you have to weigh. You know, it's like, well, this is going against all this and this, and so like I don't know if it can be quite so turbulent. You know, but ours was really.
yeah, it was our
Kinda
first
crazy.
like real like getting to play we went to conventions, we could play a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
And that made such a big difference that ours is going to be kind of like boof, boof, boof. But over the years, it's probably going to start doing this. Well, new stuff that we really like will come in, but the rest will kind of just like, oh okay, and just go back to the level. Just kind of like,
Yeah,
cool,
like,
cool, you
will
know?
there be some sort of baseline that gets established, and it's harder to like have big ups and downs? I don't know. You know. Then again, Tom had Gloomhaven just shake everything up. Now he's just a changed
And now it's not
man.
even now it's not even his number one anymore.
I know, it's crazy. Anyway, folks, let us know what you think of our ever-changing tastes. Let us know your comments. Let us know in the comments below, and also let us know if any of these games that we've talked about have appeared in your list. Have you ever had a major game that you like were all in on? You're like, this is gonna be the favorite forever. That now you kind of like don't even play anymore. Like
That's what that
you know what
hasn't
I mean?
happened
Like,
to me at least.
It
which-
hasn't happened to us, but like Legendary, we played over 100 times.
That's the
probably
best
in
example.
a year.
Yeah.
How many times do you think we played last year? Probably not even 10.
Probably not 10.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
10.
a steep
Maybe
drop,
yeah,
man.
probably like 8. Yeah, oh yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, it's just how it goes. It's harder to get around, and as you refine and figure out what you like more and more, and then also just having the opportunity to hear what people, what game, like they see y'all out there, like you tell us about games all the time. We're like, oh, I don't know what that is. We gotta look into that. We gotta try that. We gotta play that. So like we've gotten to just learn a lot more about games, which is interesting. So I'm looking forward to the future whenever we do another top 100 and see how stuff. That'd be interesting to do a top 100 recap, and like then you're gonna see some craziness up in there.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, folks, that's a little look at 2017 versus 2018 by the numbers, comparison, contrasting, seeing how our tastes differ or don't. Anyway, don't forget to like this video. I'm trying to get them likes up, man. Hit that algorithm.
Try to hit that algorithm.
You know, it's another thing you can do. Subscribe to the Brothers Murphy and dig
Indeed.
what we're doing. Go back and watch our top 100 if you haven't yet. It's all right here on this channel in a bunch of chunks. If you got a full day ahead of you, nothing to
clean
do.
10
If
hours,
you have a
yeah.
crazy fever, just go right through all of them, all in one day, and you'll lose your brain. And it'll
Sure.
be great. Anything else, Steve?
And yeah, that just thanks for being around.
Thanks for
it's been
supporting.
wonderful.
Thanks for supporting. We'll see y'all in the next video, and have a great day.
Have a good day.
Cheers. Cheers.